Among the philosophers of ancient Athens, there were many who dressed in fine robes, taught in decorated porticos, and filled scrolls with elegant dialectics. They charged fees for lessons, gave lectures before polite crowds, and debated endlessly about abstract definitions. Their speech was clever, their logic intricate, their reputations respected. Yet to Diogenes, these men were not philosophers, but merchants of thought, peddlers of words who had abandoned the only purpose philosophy could ever serve, to teach one how to live. He walked among them like a heretic in a temple. Where they spoke of virtue in refined terms, Diogenes lived it. Where they parsed ethics in theory, he demonstrated it through action. Where they sought disciples, he sought none. He did not sell wisdom, and he scorned those who did. Philosophy, he said, must be a cure, not a conversation. It is not something to be learned and recited, but something to be embodied. To study it and not live it is to dress like a physician while letting patients die. What good is it to know the definition of courage if you cannot endure pain? What value is there in discussing justice if you cannot live honestly? Diogenes spat on such hypocrisy, literally, at times, and showed by his own life that truth requires nothing but integrity and boldness. He confronted not only the philosophers, but their students, those who came to memorize systems and names, who learned the opinions of 100 schools, but could not look a beggar in the eye. He ridiculed their learning as ornamental, their arguments as toys. He warned them that they were building towers of reason on foundations of fear. They wanted to understand the cosmos, but could not control their appetites. They could explain the soul, but were still enslaved by money, praise, and passion. To Diogenes, such men were not wise. They were merely educated. True wisdom, in his view, began not in books, but in self-mastery. To govern oneself, to want little, to speak only what one knows, to act without hypocrisy. This was philosophy. And it required no school, no title, no payment. It could be practiced anywhere, at any time, by anyone willing to abandon illusion. Diogenes did not invent a new doctrine. He scraped away the falsehoods of the old. He did not write treatises. He lived a treatise. His body was his argument. His life was his school. He tested philosophy not in discussion, but in hardship. He trained his body to endure hunger and cold. He trained his tongue to speak truth without fear. He rejected comforts not because they were evil, but because they softened the soul. While other philosophers debated whether virtue was sufficient for happiness, Diogenes lived happily with nothing but virtue. He answered questions not with speculation, but with simplicity. When asked what wisdom was, he pointed to his independence. When asked what education was for, he said, "To learn how to be free." He did not deny the value of reason, but he hated its corruption. The mind, he believed, is a tool for liberation, not for performance. The sophist uses words to dazzle. The true philosopher uses them to reveal. The academic hides behind complexity. Diogenes exposed with bluntness. When a student asked how to become wise, he did not prescribe a reading list. He told him to eat only when hungry, sleep where he could, and to stop pretending to be what he was not. Diogenes did not seek followers. He did not claim to possess secret knowledge. His truth was not hidden in metaphysics or logic puzzles, but in the open daylight of daily life. He rejected the idea that wisdom could be systematized or sold. His challenge was terrifying because it left no room for excuse. You did not need to wait, study, or pay. You only needed courage. And courage, he knew, is what most so-called philosophers lacked. To this day, philosophy remains haunted by the question Diogenes posed with his existence. Is your philosophy a practice or a posture? Do your words cost you anything? Has your thinking changed the way you live? For Diogenes, there could be no wisdom without transformation, no truth without action. The rest was theater. In a world of professional thinkers and academic careers, Diogenes remains a threat, not because he denied philosophy, but because he reminded us of what it demands. It is not enough to think clearly. One must live honestly. It is not enough to understand virtue. One must be virtuous. It is not enough to speak of freedom. One must cast off chains. Diogenes did all this with nothing but a cloak, a staff, and a will of iron. And in doing so, he left behind not a doctrine, but a challenge, one that still burns today in the heart of every honest soul. Live it, or drop the name.